Welcome to Off Panel from Sketch.com. This week, it's a little bit different as I'm bringing my buddy Brandon Burpee onto the show to talk into the year stuff. Brandon, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's been a bit.
Yeah, so I know we had a good amount of listeners, but this is my co-host from Sketched Out and also my co-host from the artist formerly known as Four Colored News and Brews back in the day at Multiversity Comics.
Clip Ricketts.
Clip Ricketts, bringing it back right from the start. And so for this show, we're going to go a little bit different. We're gonna do end of the year recap, kind of like we used to do on Four Color, but there's going to be more like discussion elements. We're going to do our top 10 favorite comics of the year at the end. But I want to start somewhere that has nothing to do with end of the year stuff, because Brandon and I are both historically speaking, big X-Men fans. And yesterday, the X-Men Apocalypse trailer dropped. What did you think, Brandon?
It was sick as hell.
It was so awesome.
It was so awesome. And the coolest part is, like, where I work now, like, everybody's a nerd there. So, like, somebody put it up on, like, a screen, and, like, it was just a gathering of nerds. And it was so funny because it was just like, oh. And it was just, like, the experience of just watching the trailer was so awesome, just with a fucking shit ton of nerds. It was great.
That is really awesome. So I have to ask, like, in the trailer, the dude who's standing next to Xavier when they're talking to Moira McTaggart in the beginning, is that Havoc?
It's totally Havoc. Okay,
I wasn't sure. I couldn't tell because it looked like the kid, but he had that long 80s hair, and I was like, is that Havoc? I have no idea. But it's amazing how many different people are in that. Holy shit. Like, that is
crazy. Yeah. It took me a bit, too, because I had to watch it a couple times, so I was like, is that Havoc or is the guy playing Angel? Like,
right, yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I looked at because I was trying to figure out who everybody was, and I looked on IMDb, and it said Caliban or whatever is in the movie. Yeah, I'm like, holy shit, they're working Caliban into it? Which I guess, well, I mean, that makes a little bit of sense, because they had, I mean, wasn't he part of, like, the Fall of Mutants Apocalypse stuff?
Yeah, he was a Morlock.
Yeah.
Transformed, so.
It's just so random having Caliban on there. Maybe, who knows, maybe Maggot's going to be worked in.
Oh my God. You don't even know. You just, like, it would be on the headlines like, man dies in movie. Nobody will ever know why, but I'll have just been like, it can't get better, and I'll just fucking pass on.
He was perfectly healthy. It's weird. And then he saw Maggot, and he just moved on to a higher plane.
I was like, I can't top this. It's over.
Oh, yeah. It looks so awesome, though. Like, I don't know. I don't have a problem with how Apocalypse looks.
I was going to say, yeah, like, everybody had so many problems because he looked kind of like Purple Ivan Ooze, and I was like, well, do we know if that's not, like, the lighting of the picture?
Right.
And sure enough, that's, like, exactly what it turned out to be. Like, I think he looks cool, and I love that, like, they kept the crazy concept shit of, like, him growing and stuff like that. I was like, yes, they didn't even, like, try to tone his ass down. They went balls to the walls crazy Apocalypse.
Yeah, that was super rad. I think the whole thing looks super awesome. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page with that because it looks totally badass.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, other question. We're a week out. What's your Star Wars hype level?
Oh my God, it's so beyond crazy hype. Like, so if I weren't able to hype myself up enough, just by myself, like, my work is doing a whole week of Star Wars stuff. So, like, the first day they're airing the original 3 movies. The second day they're setting up a 45-minute window where you can just pick up and go to this ballroom at work, and just, like, they're going to have lightsabers and they're encouraging people to bring their own. And we're just going to have a company-wide massive, like, 45-minute lightsaber fight.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And then on Wednesday, they're hosting this bar called Atomic Liquor. If you get a chance, look it up. It's the website is fremontawakens.com. They're taking this bar and transforming it into the cantina, and they have they have a picture of what they're doing, and it's so badass. Like, our company is hosting it, so it's like $30 to get in, but we get like 50% off to go. So it's like $15, and they're going to give away prizes and trivia, and they're encouraging people to dress up, and then they're doing it up as the whole cantina. It's fucking rad.
I know you don't really cosplay, but if you're ever going to cosplay, that's the situation.
Oh yeah, I'm going to bring my Kylo Ren costume from Halloween. I'm ready to fucking rock.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I am so unbelievably jacked. Wait, I assume you have tickets already, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
Are you going Thursday, Friday? Where are you going?
I put it off on Thursday because Thursday they're giving away tickets for my work. So I'm like, if I win some tickets, I don't want to have bought them. But I'm pulling Dex out of school on Friday. He's not even going. I'm just taking him to the early morning showing at what's it called? IMAX 3D theater at this casino, and they've got like reclining leather seats, and so I'm not even sending him to school. We're just gonna go to the movie.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going Saturday morning at 10 a.m. like the opening weekend and everything. My nephew, he bought everyone in my entire family tickets to go see it as a family. But
That's cool.
he bought it the day after Christmas, and he's like, I want everyone to wait. I'm like, I'm sorry, Tyler, I love you, but I'm not going to wait.
No way.
I can't do that. I mean, especially because like I generally speaking don't really care about spoilers, but at this point, if somebody told me like what Luke's situation is in that, I would probably just straight up murder them as a response.
Right. And honestly, like I know for me, like I would avoid comic book websites. That's all fine and good. But now, like with websites like Yahoo, like they
Everybody's
start to
picking it up.
yeah, well, they start to understand your interests, and so like their main page like reads whatever you usually do, and then like caters to it. So whenever I get on there, there's always Star Wars stuff. So I know I'm going to get on there if I get online before seeing that movie, and it's gonna be like, oh yeah, by the way, beep, and it's gonna be like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So I was like, no, we're doing first thing in the morning on Friday.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice. Anything you can do to like limit your potential like harm to your viewing experience. Like I know that the like the premiere is on Monday, right? And like I'm pretty much just going to like avoid the internet as much as humanly possible for the entire week until like Saturday, which is good because like they shut down Grantland, and so basically I don't have a website to read anymore. So I'll go on ESPN. But you never know with ESPN because ESPN keeps posting random fucking unrelated sports stuff, and I want to kill them. And it's just like, no, stop spoiling stuff for me. Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyways, but yeah, everybody's gonna be talking about Star Wars this week, so I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if that included ESPN and just random stuff. Anyways, all right, we're both hyped. Let's get on to 2015 in comics. So this isn't a question I wrote down, so I'm gonna completely cheat right from the start. Brandon, as a whole, how do you feel about 2015 for comics?
As far as the industry or my buying habits, or just
like,
anything?
Just let your fanboy flag fly. Like, how are you enjoying comics today, December 12th, 2015?
Okay, so as of December 12th, 2015, I'm enjoying comics about 3,000% more than I have the majority of the year.
Really?
For me, this year has not been a banner comic year.
I agree entirely.
I have bought less comics and spent less money on comics than I think I have in over a decade. And the reason why a decade ago it was that way is because I was broke.
Right.
Now I've got money to buy it, and I'm just choosing not to. Like, it's crazy. Like, there's books out, or have been books out, that like would typically be like, oh, it's this character, or it's this series, I got to get it. Like, I'm just over it. I skip it. Like, and I think some of that's just like the constant relaunches are kind of worn on me, and it's like it doesn't even matter anymore. Right. But also just overall general quality, and like even like creator names on books has just been like, yeah.
It's like I don't know. I mean, like, I think there's a lot of really good comics, but it's weirdly like I think, and I really do think it has a big part to do with I we'll get to this, and I think DC's kind of in rough shape personally.
Yeah.
And I think that Marvel's kind of like dropped the ball quite a bit on a number of things, and I feel like my excitement level is at a kind of low point. But the one thing I will say is, and I'll definitely get to this, is I'm happy with comics in 2015, but I feel like because like the big two, and I know people like are like, oh, you can ignore Marvel or DC or whatever, but I'm like, I'm sorry, like I grew up reading them. Right. And it's a big part of my comic book reading life. And when Marvel and DC are off, I feel like part of my enjoyment of comics is off.
Totally. Because it's like, for me, I like comics are like my ridiculous over the top summer blockbuster movies. Yeah. I need that just to like relax and escape reality. Yeah, but then I have like other books, that are like more of like the high class movie, like maybe an Image book like Black Science or something like that, which doesn't have to have like, a Wolverine or somebody, but I love and I wait for. But I need that balance. There has to be a balance for me to really make that enjoyable. And that balance is so skewed right now. It's not even funny.
Would you say there's a disturbance in the Force?
Big time. And we need to have Vader toss the Emperor into the fucking furnace and rebalance that shit.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I really do. I think that actually I've been trying to figure out what has been like, I don't know. I don't want to sound dramatic, but what's been throwing off my steez so far this year. And I really do think you hit the nail on the head. I feel like there's a balance issue. Like there's an issue. I feel like there's a general unbalanced in terms of the quality fun ratio.
Mm-hmm.
Like I you know, if like I was actually explaining in the car as I was driving over with Amber, and I was like, it is so weird for me to say that I don't think I bought a single X-Men comic in 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, and like, you know, I'm a huge X-Men fan. I mean, we were just getting hyped about X-Men Apocalypse at the beginning, so it's weird for me to be at that place. But it's just like, I'm not like, I don't know, like even when they announced that Apocalypse Wars or whatever that was yesterday, I think it's called Apocalypse Wars, but I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, like it just seems weird seeing like Old Man Logan and like random other characters just like flying around in there, and I'm like, I don't know, it's not getting me hyped, and I kind of want to get back to the point where I'm like, I go to a shop and I'm like, woo, yeah, picking up X-Men, yeah. But I guess I'm just not there. But so next question for you. We're both big Marvel fans. We've talked about this before. Do you think Marvel screwed up Secret Wars in the all different relaunch? And furthermore, has that impacted what you bought in the relaunch at all?
First and foremost, there's been no impact for me as far as like, okay, so I wanted to clarify this one. So the question is like, are you talking about how the fact that they've relaunched the whole thing before Secret Wars is concluded?
Correct.
Yeah, so for me, that really didn't affect anything buying wise. Because coming into the buying portion of it, it's just like, if the title looked good, I'm going to get it.
Yeah, sure.
And if it spoils Secret Wars, I'm going to be pissed. But so far, it hasn't spoiled anything for Secret Wars. And Secret Wars is like its own standalone thing. I've actually really enjoyed a lot. But it does take some of the impact, I feel, out of the end, because I'm like, okay, so Doom must be okay. And, you know, like all these big players. And so it's like, that kind of takes a little bit of the sting out of the punch. But
wait, really quick, it is really funny that in the very first issue of Invincible Iron Man, it ends with being like, yo, Doom's here, what up?
Yeah, your Secret Wars, fuck that. You don't even need to know. He's good.
Yeah, this war's not secret anymore, and he's a man again. He's just a normal dude with a suit on.
I do absolutely love the irony of them calling it Secret Wars and giving away the ending, basically, like letting us know where everything's at.
It's extremely not secretive at this point.
No, it's the worst Secret War ever as far as actual secret keeping.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like, I've actually really enjoyed Secret Wars as its own standalone thing. So for me, I don't know. It really hasn't impacted anything. I think they dropped the ball as like, you guys might have wanted to have been a little more prepared, but outside of that, not really. How about yourself?
No, I mean, honestly, like I'm totally on board with what you're saying. Like I said earlier, I'm not a big spoilers guy. It doesn't really affect me that much. I do think that to a certain degree, and I made this analogy in an article, but I feel like to a certain degree, reading some of the all new, all different stuff, especially like something like Invincible Iron Man, it feels like you're reading, like, you ever read like a book series and like, I don't know, it feels like reading the second book in the book series without reading like the final few chapters in the first book. And you know, you can figure it out, but there's like, you always kind of feel like, did I miss something? Is there something that I missed? Like, was there something important that happens in Secret Wars that is messing me up? But, you know, honestly, like, I'm picking up the same books that I would buy otherwise. Like, I actually have picked up some random books that I didn't expect, just because, like, I would, like, honestly, like, I picked up The Vision entirely because I didn't pay attention to it because I was like, I honestly do not give a crap about a Vision comic. And I saw this preview and it was like, The Vision has a family. And I'm like, what the hell? I just thought it sounded so weird. And I was like, I'll flip through it in the shop. And I flipped through it in the shop and I love it. It's amazing. It is so good. It is
a really good book.
It is so good. Like the first two issues were amazing. And somehow they made the Grim Reaper scary and like his death actually interesting.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I'm going to get to this too much, but Tom King, like, I'm starting to think that guy's a fucking wizard.
And Walt's art is dope.
So good. And Jordi Belair coloring it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So like, I'm picking up some books that, you know, the books that I expected to buy. And then I'm picking up some books I didn't expect that have been really awesome. And like, I feel like it's kind of cool that they're taking some random chances, like for something like The Vision, because it's a super good book.
It really is.
But I do feel like they've kind of screwed themselves to a certain degree, because like there are some readers who are much more militant than either of us. But
yeah,
I'm gonna get to this later. But I honestly, like, straight up, I think when it's all said and done, I think Secret Wars will be Marvel's greatest event ever.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that, like, if people could separate themselves from the fact that it's super late, I think people would be like, this is the shit.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get to that later. All right, next question for you. I know cost has always been a consideration for you, and it's less of an issue now, but at the same time, comics are getting pretty freaking expensive. I mean, like Dark Knight 3, The Master Race was like $5.99. And actually, I don't know if you saw it in your shop, but they released like a hardcover edition this week.
Yeah.
It was like $12.99 for one comic.
It's a monster. It was ridiculous.
It is so ridiculous. But and most Marvel relaunches are like $4.99. Actually, much to my chagrin. I really like Howard the Duck, but I dropped it after the second issue because the second issue was $4.99 too.
What?
Yeah, and incredibly enough had a guest artist in the second issue. So
for $4.99 you get a guest artist,
and you get like,
wow.
Yeah, I mean it's because they have Gwenpool in it, and I don't care about Gwenpool, but
yeah.
Anyway, so I decided I was going to switch to trade or just Marvel Unlimited it. Anyways, so is the increasing cost of comics impacting how much you're buying or how much you're interested in trying?
Oddly enough, no, just because I'm so disinterested in a lot of comics right now that like it almost offsets itself. I will say from time to time though, like I've been reading the Star Wars books, and like so the Star Wars annual came out this week or last week, and it was $4.99, and I was like, let me thumb through it. I was like, doesn't look like it really ties in all that much. Pass. So there's every once in a while there's an occasion where I run across a $4.99 book and I'm just like, no. But yeah, in general, I mean, I don't think I spend on a weekly basis anymore more than like $25-30 a week.
Yeah.
Like I don't think I bring home more than 6 or 7 books, which I was talking to Laura the other day is crazy because there was a time where I was bringing 14 to 16 like a week and not even blinking. Like it's crazy.
So, okay. Like we've talked about that. Do you have an idea as to why, short of the fact that they're like kind of just less blockbuster fun than they were before?
For me, and this is just me personally, I'm a big Marvel DC fan. So like, I mean, I enjoy my Image books and my books that are superhero. But for me, I like my big thing in comics is superhero. So I want these superhero books. And I think a lot of it is that like Image has killed the comic star, like the mainstream comic, like main two, like they've taken all the talent away because these guys can make money doing something where they own the character.
Right.
And so a lot of these guys are leaving, and it's like you look at these books sometimes you're just like, there's not a lot of A-list talent anymore, like especially in DC.
Right.
DC is just, I mean, the cupboards are bare.
Right.
And what's crazy is it's not even like they lost a lot of people to Image. Like Marvel's lost a lot. DC just doesn't have anybody, period.
Well, and I think a lot of times like you're seeing like Marvel loses people to Image, and then Marvel takes DC's best people.
Yeah.
And then DC's like, I guess we got Paul Levitz.
and Brett Booth.
Yeah, there we go. We got that on lockdown. No, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, it's like, I do think that my intake on Marvel DC stuff is down, and it is like I look through DC's like creative teams and like, you know, I mean, you will be the first person to back me up on this, but I have a pretty like encyclopedic knowledge of like comic book creators,
right?
And I have no effing clue who most of those people are.
Yeah,
and that's pretty weird, man. I mean, it's like DC pays a lot, and like they are a pretty big deal, and like it just seems like they can't really get people that people are super hyped about, and either that or they're like even making comics that people really like.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it's just kind of interesting that like you and me, self-professed Marvel DC fans are like kind of just like, meh.
Yeah, I'm honestly right now buying more Image books than I am DC. I'm only buying 4.5, I say 4.5 DC books because I'm buying Batman and Ninja Turtles, so it's like IDW DC.
Yeah.
But it's like 4.5, so I'm reading Justice League.
Yeah.
I'm reading Batman. I'm reading We Are Robin. I'm reading Deathstroke. That's my guilty pleasure.
Nice.
Deathstroke is so stupid. It's awesome. And then I don't even remember what the other one is. But the other one is not Green Lantern.
Wait, did you say
in
Batman?
any form. Yeah, Batman, Justice League, Deathstroke, We Are Robin.
That's 4.5. With Batman team.
Oh yeah, and then the other, so 4.5. So yeah, like I'm literally not reading a Green Lantern title. I can't tell you the last time that happened.
That's rare.
And honestly, there's talk of like Capullo and Snyder leaving Batman. I might be too.
Yeah.
I'm honestly, shocker, like early spoiler. Batman is not in my top 10 this year for the first time in I don't even know when.
I didn't think it was gonna be because it seemed like you kind of soured on the Gordon angle.
I don't think it's terrible, but I don't really love it. And if I'm being completely honest, even before the Gordon angle, like 2015 for Batman's been like meh.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's crazy to me, but no. Well.
I'm not gonna like I'm not saying something that I actually know or something like that. But if it is like let's say Snyder and Murphy like do it for like 6 issues, and Capullo rolls out, does his Miller book, and then comes back, would you stick around on Batman, or is it like if like Capullo goes, you go?
No, for me, honestly, it's when Snyder goes, I go.
Sure. Yeah.
So if they bring in Murphy, cool. If they bring in some other awesome artist, cool. If Capullo sticks around, that's awesome. But yeah, at this point, like I'd love for them to bring Jock back in for a little while with him. But for me, honestly, just like at this point, Snyder's bought my loyalty on Batman. If he does a Batman book, I'm buying it.
We're kind of down on Marvel and DC, but they're still doing good things, right? So, what was your favorite thing that Marvel did this year in your mind? Could be anything, not just the comics.
Yeah. So honestly, like Marvel and DC, Marvel for most of you really kind of like the Secret Wars tie-ins for me. I didn't buy any of those basically. I bought a couple like E is for Extinction, Old Man Logan, and not much else honestly. So like over the course of like, what is that, 7 months this has been going? 8 months?
It's been going on for forever. I mean, even the tie-ins were running late too. Holy shit.
Yeah. And so like as a result, like I haven't honestly read much Marvel. Like the Marvel I'm reading is like scattered X-Men titles, Star Wars, and yeah, I don't know. That might and Secret Wars, and that's about it.
I want to emphasize to listeners really quick how weird that is for Brandon. That's super effing weird.
Crazy weird.
I mean, like
insane.
I mean, we used to like it takes a lot for either one of us to kind of go off the Marvel train. So it's really bizarre. Anyway, sorry, continue with your thought.
No, you're good. Yeah, so honestly, like, you remember when Flashpoint had all the tie-ins?
Yeah.
I didn't buy any of that shit. That's basically how I looked at the Marvel stuff. Like, it's inconsequential. It doesn't affect anything. Like, why am I going to pay $3.99 for it? Like, for 4 or 5 issues. And the ones that I did buy, like, I bought a couple of them, and some of them were really good. The other ones, it was like, oh, that ended up being exactly what I thought would be, completely worthless.
Yeah.
But having said that, my favorite thing outside of, I don't know, 2 things. I'm not going to go elaborate too much on either one of them, but
I have 2 things too, so it's totally fine.
Cool. Star Wars. That has been phenomenal. And then honestly, all new, all different Marvel. I think that it has been a huge success for me for a couple reasons. It's got me re-energized on the line. I actually, because I wrote down my poll list, I went through and just wrote down everything. Right now, I've got in between here and February, considering those solicitations, about 13 titles I'm going to be pulling for Marvel, which like more than doubles what I was buying like 2-3 months ago, which is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so on a flip side to that, it's been great because they've like, with some of these titles, they've made it very accessible and they've also like made it less dark. And so for the first time in I think forever, I get like a Marvel book, like a one, and just carrying on, and I just throw them in Dex's room and he reads them.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so it's been
the
really
best
good
news.
Yeah, it's crazy. So like for Marvel and me and where I'm at with reading comics, like I don't feel them as much as I did, but I feel it even more when I can just hand it over to Dex, and I can have comic conversations with Dex now, which is crazy.
That is awesome. Wait, really quick for listeners, Dex is his son, and I'm pretty sure he's like 42 now or something.
Yeah, he's like 7 going on 42. He's crazy. But yeah, so like it's been awesome. Like he's reading Doctor Strange, he's reading Invincible Iron Man, he's reading all new, all different Avengers, all this stuff, and it's crazy accessible, which is phenomenal because it hasn't been that way in forever.
Doctor Strange is a super fun book, and it's weird as shit. And like, man, can you? Because like we both had the experience growing up and like seeing Botchlow's art for the first time. I bet he was like, damn.
Yeah, there's been a couple of these. Like he actually really loves Nova.
Oh,
and
nice.
And then Invincible Iron Man, the art on that. So, but yeah, Doctor Strange he enjoys, and he's loving the Star Wars shit. He's reading the hell out of that.
Okay, so after this, if you could email me what you're reading right now and all new, all different, because like I feel like I should try out more stuff, but I've been kind of like, I don't know, I'm just kind of wishy-washy on it, and I wish I want to try more stuff. So shoot me some stuff, and I want to like maybe check out some more that I'm missing.
Yeah.
So for me, the things that I'm excited about are, I got to give Marvel credit. Like taking a flagship book and letting Hickman, like both Avengers and New Avengers and Secret Wars, and letting him just do his like ultra Hickman, super intense, like crazy, I don't know, his Hickman shit.
Yeah.
Like letting his like freak flag fly and like do all that business. I mean, it's pretty awesome. I mean, I guess I just for a company that everyone's always like, oh, editorial oversight. Like, I don't think there's a whole lot of editorial oversight on Secret Wars or his Avengers books, and those are their biggest books. And like, I think they're rad. I think they're super rad. So like, I think that's super cool. And then also, I'm super stoked on like them having some smaller creators do their thing on smaller books too, because like we talked about the Vision. That's not a normal Marvel book, but it's super good. And like, I'm glad that they're taking shots on that. And I've talked about it before. I love Squirrel Girl. I love things like Howard the Duck. And it's like, they're putting cool creators on like small books. And like, I don't know, for me, it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? Like if they like put somebody super random on Howard the Duck, it's not going to sell. It's a Howard the Duck book. Who cares?
Right. Exactly.
And so you can put Chip Zdarsky on it and it can be weird as hell and it can be awesome too. So, I mean, I really like that they're doing that, and it's pretty fun. But okay, so conversely, for the negative side, what at Marvel this year has made you think that they're kind of just off their asses, losing their minds?
Okay, so I wrote down my answer for that, but it starts in one place and ends in another place. So
sounds like story time.
Not even just. Yeah, it's just I'm answering your question, but I'm also not answering your question is what I'm prefacing, I guess.
Fair enough.
So for me in 2015, the moment I most thought that they were losing their mind was when they announced all new, all different Avengers. Yeah. I was like, this is a stupid fucking idea. Like, this is not my prime Avengers, blah, 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 blah. Just geek rage. But I have actually grown to enjoy it. And Dex reads it. And so for me, like I'll always love New Avengers. Like I didn't really read Avengers until New Avengers. I mean, I read here and spotty stuff through the 90s, but never really got into it New Avengers. But this is totally geared right at his age range. It's totally like younger heroes and jump on level. And it's got like that Jubilee in the X-Men cartoon series vibe where you've got these younger characters that you can kind of associate with as a kid and then come into it. So I started out thinking that was going to be the stupidest thing they do all year. But actually, it turned out to be a really smart decision, in my opinion, because I like that they're skewing in a direction where you can bring in kids, which is super smart because then you can get rid of all of us jaded old people.
Yeah, exactly. Who needs this? Good God. Yeah. For me, and I still think the book's open on it, but I do think that they, not necessarily from a publishing standpoint, but I feel like they botched the relaunch. And I feel like a lot of people, like the excitement level behind Marvel isn't there right now, partially because Secret Wars didn't finish and partially because they launched All New, All Different while it's still going. But also, like, I really do think they made some, like, super odd choices. Like, like, let's just take this, for example. Like, it may not be for either of us, but people freaking love Young Avengers, right? Mm-hmm. People love Runaways. You don't get either of those books, but you get a Black Knight book.
Yeah.
Like,
by Frank Thierry.
By Frank Thierry. Well, I mean, if they're going to do a Frank Thierry book, just do freaking Space Punisher.
Put him on Wolverine again.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, it just seems really weird to me that they would do something like that because it's like, not to be a jerk, because the people who make it, I'm sure, are very kind. And like Black Knight is... No, Black Knight's not a very good character. I'm going to be totally honest. Yeah. But like, who's the audience for that? Honestly, like, I don't.
Guess as good as mine. I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah, so it just seems kind of weird. It's like I could make an argument for almost any book on their line, but there's some books where I'm just like, it just seems like such an odd choice. So it's like, I don't really. And okay, actually, and here's my real answer because I just thought of it while we were talking. Mm-hmm. Why do they keep trying to shove Inhumans down our throat?
Because they're trying to make them the new X-Men because they don't have the rights to that shit.
Oh my God. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Like, have you like met somebody who's like, I mean, besides the Paul Jenkins and Jay Lee, whatever, series, like, is like, you know what? Inhumans are my jam.
No.
No one has said those words really ever besides maybe Jack Kirby. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I just find that to be so weird. So like, kind of like botching All New, All Different, some of the choices they made on the line, and just continue to shove Inhumans down their throat. I guess they're part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever, but
yep,
I just don't care. Okay, now let's move to DC. What have you been liking at DC? I know that's probably going to go dark, but I mean, like, what have you enjoyed at DC?
We Are Robin.
Nice.
That is by far my favorite DC book right now. I love that book. I don't know why I love it as much as I do, but I love the art. I think the story is great. I also enjoy that like they're not big characters, so like they die sometimes. And so there's like an unpredictability to the title, which
I love
is
it.
entertaining when it's a DC or a Marvel book when you're like, I don't really know what's going to happen month to month. Like these guys could be dead next month, you know, like because they've already killed off people. And then I'm not, but then on the flip side, they kill me because then they tie it into the whole Robin War, which I refuse to read.
Right. Wait, why do you refuse to read that? Just because it's such a big tie-in?
Yeah, I don't want to buy Grayson. I don't want to buy Robin, son of Batman. I don't want to buy Teen Titans. I don't want to buy. I mean, like the list goes on and on and on. And then the kickoff for it was like a $5 one shot. Like pass. So it's like it kills me. Like you got such hot momentum on this book that's running so well by itself, and then you tie it in other things. It's like the '90s all over again.
Yeah. I guess at least is it just one issue?
I don't know. I'm still gonna buy the issue because I'm hoping it'll be like one of those things where it's like it ties in, but it still continues the main story.
Sure.
Because if it just dovetails out and does its own thing, I'm gonna be fucking pissed.
So kind of like the Flash did. I don't know if you're still watching the Flash, but
hell yeah,
yeah. So like the Flash when it tied in with the stupid ass Legends of Tomorrow stuff for one episode, like you know what I'm talking about, where they still had the Harrison Wells stuff going on and all that jazz, but like yeah. Anyways, like so like that where it can just touch on it, but it still has the main thread going.
Yeah. Or honestly, this is kind of a weird thing for me to think and even say is like, remember when they did Infinite Crisis and there was like people like, what the hell? This isn't a tie-in. There was just like an OMAC flying above. I'd be totally cool if it's that kind of crossover, honestly, in this occasion. Like, look, there goes a Robin. All right, moving on. Like, that would be amazing.
I remember that. That was so hilarious. It's just like, you like look in the corner and there's just like this one OMAC being like, I'm going to get Firestorm. You're like, cool, comic going on down here, so have fun.
Yeah. You tricked me. I spent $225 on this. Oh, back in the day.
Back in the day. That'd be like $7.99 now.
Seriously.
Just for that OMAC's first
just
appearance.
For the OMAC, yeah.
Okay, so my pick is this is kind of cheating, but I did say could be anything, not just comics. I will say that I think that DC's specifically the Flash TV show is like probably their best comic right now.
Yeah.
And like it is like I love the Flash TV show. It is amazing. And I really with a fiery passion hate the Legends of Tomorrow stuff. And I think that super sucks. But now that we're past that, I'm hoping that it's going to continue to be just straight up amazing. I'm pretty down on Arrow this season, to be honest. I think that I want to kill half the cast. Actually, I hope that they really just stuff at least 3/4 of the cast into that grave that they flash forwarded to. Like I'd be fine with just put Diggle in there, put Thea, put Laurel. I don't know, just put like the entire Lance family in there. I'm fine with that. But anyways, so that's one thing. And then I also I have been like they are putting some interesting teams together. Like it seems like because they're like kind of in a situation where they don't have the A-list to pick from, they are making some interesting choices. And like the fact that they're hiring Tom King and who clearly is a super badass. Like I already pre-ordered like the Omega Men trade just because I find that to be a really interesting sounding series. So I do like that they're taking some chances. The sad thing though is like I'm gonna be totally honest. I appreciate from the outside that they're taking these chances, but I'm not buying their comics.
Yeah, that's the thing is like Omega Men, like you're talking about. I'm not reading that, but there seems to be a lot of fan passion behind it.
Yeah.
Like they even got it to like extend it back out to whatever it was supposed to be originally. I was like, all right, maybe that's worth checking out. But honestly, chances of me checking out are like when Spider-Girl was like that, and that never happened either.
Yeah. Well, so my negative for my thing that I'm not enjoying, what make me think they're losing their minds, is basically just like every decision they've made.
Right.
It's just like, how is it that DC is so uninteresting? Like
it's crazy.
And I'm not like, I actually, one comic I did really enjoy was super random was Prez, but at the same time, like, it's just like 1 out of like 50 titles. That's insane. Like I'm just blown away by the fact that I like am so casually disinterested in almost everything they publish.
especially when you have such like an iconic roster of characters.
Yeah,
How can you not make a really good Green Lantern book? How can you not make a really good Flash book?
right.
Like, and Superman, even like when they relaunched it, I actually was buying some and I kind of dug it, and then it got really stupid. Like he was like fighting in like a superhero god fight club, and I was like, we're done.
Yeah.
When he was just cruising around all like weird 80s roadhouse on a motorcycle,
Yeah.
that was like Deathstroke for me. It was like, this is so awful, it's amazing. But yeah, that wore off.
I still think the answer is really that they should just hire us to reboot their line.
I know that's right.
I mean, that would be amazing. Actually, you had me sold on like Superman Roadhouse like style, like just him rolling around fighting people and stuff like that. I'd be down. Why
The
not?
first few issues were cool. Like the first issue, he's like all like roadhoused out fighting ninjas in the snow with like his cape torn up around his hand. I was like, what is this? This is crazy. And then yeah, and then they just, it's like one of those things where like the jokes just stops being funny after a while. DC just doesn't seem to understand that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we're through Marvel and DC. This, this is always gonna be tough. I mean, it's like we talked about this before. We used to do, for the listeners, we used to do like favorite issues, and that's hard as shit. Like it's hard to really like, unless you're planning it the entire year, it's hard to really slot one issue as being one of your favorites or whatever. But this is even harder. What moment to you stands out as the ultimate hell yes moment in comics this year? Like the thing that got you like amped and you're like, this is what I want from my comics.
I had a hard time with that, honestly. I struggle with that.
I knew it immediately. Immediately.
Oh, God, I just really don't like. One thing that I put on here though, well, there's two things, and they're both kind of in the same vein. Because are we talking Marvel or DC or in general right now?
Anything, literally anything.
Okay, so for DC, for me, I know you said you didn't like the Legends thing, but I was like, Hawk people, holy crap! That made me geek out.
It's not that I didn't like it's not that I don't like the Hawk people. It's just like I don't like them. Like I don't know. It's actually I can tell you exactly what it is. It's the exact same thing that is happening with Robin War with you. It's like I just want to watch my Flash. Get out of my shit. I want to watch that. Just bring Hawk people and Legends tomorrow. I don't need build up.
Fair enough.
Anyways.
And then my number one moment of the year, bar none, was Uncanny X-Men 600, seeing Maggot front and center. He's continuity. He's alive. Yes. And he's so continuity that he only still had one of his maggots. So where's the other one at? That little boy still got that little thief.
Oh my God. Wait, what little boy?
Oh, so originally when they killed Maggot, they killed him in like a mutant concentration camp.
Right.
He gave one of his maggots off to this little kid that was there. So even when he's been coming back, he's only got the one. So the other one's out there somewhere. I've always had a story idea of how that maggot could turn into Maggot and that could relaunch it, but that's a whole nother thing.
I feel like the ultimate Christmas present for you would be to get you to write that script and get an artist, pay an artist to draw that story just so you could have that and be like, this is personal continuity. This is what happened to his other maggot.
Oh my God. I maintain I would, if I had unlimited funds, I would pay Grant Morrison and Frank Quietly to do that book. It would be the most insane, ridiculous book ever.
I love that. Well, isn't that his digestive system? How can he just lose a maggot? Like, why would he give one away?
Because they were going to put him in the gas chamber. It didn't matter. He was dead.
Why did he like give away one? Why didn't he give away both?
I don't know. Maybe he had a thing going on the side with the boy. I don't know.
Oh, that's creepy.
Remember me. Here's my digestive system.
Keep meanie. I'm keeping Amy.
See, but it's crazy shit about Maggot like that I just don't understand why people don't like him. Like, he handed off his digestive system as, like, memorabilia to remember him. Like, that's insane.
Were they called Eenie and Meanie also?
Yeah,
oh my
totally.
God. See, is it weird that I'm just saying stupid stuff like that? And I'm like, the good old days.
Yes, I love it. I miss it.
It's so awesome. Okay, so mine happened this week. Secret Wars number 8.
Mm-hmm.
God Doom versus Thanos.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Oh my God, it was so amazing. I love how I love Hickman, and I love how he's so good at building up moments over like long spans of time, but I love that he spent that entire page being like set up for Thanos being this super badass, and then the next page is like Doom literally just removing his existence from his spine, which makes no sense, but is exactly what happened. And I saw that and I was like, oh my God. So amazing. And then like I'm not even kidding, I like all of my lists, all my end of year stuff, I was just like, because of that issue I loved it so much. And because like the weird thing is about Secret Wars is like it's still like it's had 8 issues since May, which is actually a legit amount of issues, but because of the way it was originally scheduled, it seems late, but it's really not super late.
No.
But it like in my mind, like I'd kind of forgotten about it. And then I read number 8 and I was like, oh damn, I love this. Anyways, so that was definitely my number 1 moment.
It's a good moment.
Okay, so what was the biggest surprise to you this year in comics? And it could be someone's work, it could be a title, it could be something stupid, it could be anything. What is it?
Mine is there's not even a close second place. I knew what the answer to this was immediately for me. That was that I bought and enjoyed an Archie comic this year. Like, I have traditionally despised Archie. I loathe Archie. And then they were like, oh, we're going to put Mark Waid and Fiona Staples on. And I was like, you're going to what?
Yeah.
You're seriously? Like, that's happening? And I was like, I'll try the first issue. And then if it sucks, I'll just give it to my wife. Because she grew up loving Archie. But man, it's so good. I love it.
It's still really good too.
It's still good. They even have a new artist. I miss Fiona Staples, but the new artist works. I mean, it's maintained the quality level. The stories are fun. Like, Dex reads it, Laura reads it, I read it. So it's like a nice family book that we all share. But yeah, bar none. Like, there's not even a close second. Like, me reading an Archie book and paying for it and buying the issues. I even bought 2 of the covers for like issue 2 because I wanted the Fiona Staples cover. Was it with I still get with Betty in front of the mirror? But they didn't have that one in, but they were going to get it in the next week. But I wanted to read it, so I bought whatever cover they had, and then just got that one the next time.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, which, like, I bought 2 issues of one Archie comic. Like, what the hell?
I know, that's crazy. Well, I'm guessing you're probably not, but Jughead is also really good.
I'm not buying it. I just couldn't get myself to do
I know. I just have to tell you that, like, somehow Jughead was number 2 was like the most like Marvel 90s comic-ish comic that I've read in a long time. Not in the sense that it was like, I don't know, Cable wasn't in it or something like that. Right. But like,
do you have shoulder pads?
The entire issue is like, I'm not even kidding. It's Jughead is in detention and he's sitting there, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Archie's great granddaughter shows up out of nowhere and says, I'm part of the time police and the world's about to end in the future, and I need you to come with me to save the future. And she gives him a crown, like his normal crown, that's actually what they use for time travel. And he flies to the future, or they go to the future, and they like figure out a way to like basically stop the apocalypse in like year 3000. And like young like Archie granddaughter like falls in love with him, and he's like, fuck this, I gotta roll, this is weird, she looks like Archie. And then like, it's just so weird. It is like one of the weirdest comics I've read all year, and it was hilarious and awesome. Anyways, might be something to check out on trade, because I think you'd really enjoy it.
Yeah, I might have to do that.
And actually, the first issue is they get rid of burgers in the school cafeteria, and so he goes rogue and starts selling them in like, they have like apparently like the ability, you know, like when the people used to sell like coffee or like, I don't know, random cookies and shit in like high school. He opens up a burger stand there just because he's like so disgusted by the fact that they got rid of burgers, and it's just him like going against this system. It's awesome.
Nice. That's
anyway.
Awesome.
So mine is much less happy than yours. And I've hit on this a lot already, but it really bothers me how little I care about like the X-Men and like the Flash and stuff in terms of comics, because like I said earlier, it takes a lot for me to not be interested in buying them, but I'm just not like, I would love, like I ran to Jared the other day. Jared is a dude that shops at Bosco's, Brandon's old shop, my current shop. And he, you know, he's super X-Men fan, number 1. And he was like literally like yelling at me in like the parking lot, because he was not like mad at me, but he was just like talking about like, I don't know. He was talking about like magic and how she was like forced to be a leader and how like it's total nonsense and all this. I mean, like he was just going like super fanboy. But at the same time, I was just kind of like, you know, kind of what he's saying is just like, to a certain degree, it's like, I don't know. It's not really, and not to sound like an old man, but it's just like, it doesn't really feel like the X-Men anymore. And maybe I need to pick up something. Maybe Extraordinary X-Men is really good, but it's just like, I really want to read the X-Men, and like, instead of reading new ones, I would like go to X-Men Unlimited or Marvel Unlimited. So I don't know, like, not to be dour, but I'm just kind of like down on that part, but all right. Next question. let's say you had Doctor Doom's weirdo Beyonder powers from Secret Wars mixed with an Infinity Gauntlet, and you could do whatever you wanted. What is the one thing you change in comics this year?
Oh my God. Everything DC. Except for We Are Robin.
Right.
I mean, honestly, I would honestly go back to the beginning of the year and be like, yo, Didio, Lee, and Johns, I'm letting you know right now, you're about to have the worst fucking year ever. So drop every idea you've got, hire David and I, and let's do this thing, because it can't be worse having us in charge than having you guys in charge this year, because you guys have done a terrible fucking job.
Yeah.
And then I would just tell them, do one thing different and hope the butterfly effect kicks in, because it can help. There's no way it can make it worse.
Well, I mean, I actually had this one dude on my show a while, like one of the very first podcasts I did, and he writes for AV Club, and he was just basically like, why can't you just put like a good team on Teen Titans? Like,
right. How hard is that?
No, exactly. It's just like, instead they're like, we're just going to put garbage on Teen Titans and Wonder Woman. Not garbage. I'm sorry. That's mean. But I mean, like it should be a flagship book. Why don't you put like a good team on a book that is a seminal historic book for like the line?
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it's just crazy. Like Wonder Woman, you should be able to pull somebody down real easy. Like, honestly, I don't even hate the art on Wonder Woman. I understand where people have issues with it. I really don't. But the writing is really bad.
Right.
Like David Finch is awful. I love his art, but he should not be writing.
Right.
And then what was the other one I was? Oh, and Teen Titans. I was actually reading Teen Titans for a while, and I kind of enjoyed it. Like Will Pfeiffer writing, like his previous experience.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying you liked it. Yeah.
It was pretty decent, but like it just was going nowhere, and nothing memorable was happening. And it's like $3.99. So I'm like, I could try something else. And this year I've actually moved into being able to just like drop stuff that I would typically just continue to buy to try other things, which is nice. But it's worked out negatively for DC, because most of the things I ended up dropping to try other things for DC books.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, because like there's like 4 Green Lantern books. Traditionally, I'd be buying all of them. Instead, I'm like, hey, let's go buy something else at Image or IDW or Dark Horse, you know? So yeah, it's DC. And I hate to be like, oh, DC, it all sucked. And then somebody out there's just like, this fucking DC hater. But I love DC. It's just been a really off year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, so I'm going to change my answer because I just thought of it while you were talking. But if I could change anything, I wish, in as much as I love their TV shows and stuff, I wish Jeff Johns did more comic writing. Like, big time. I wish he would like do a small book and like, and do like, I'm not saying he has to go back to Teen Titans or go back to Green Lantern or something like that. But like, I feel like DC is like, they have a big ass Jeff Johns sized hole in their line. And like, I know he's still writing Justice League or whatever, but like, I feel like he was so important to like establishing an identity for them that was like reverential to the past, but still looking forward. Mm-hmm. That like they really miss his presence. And like I find it hard to imagine that his presence on Supergirl or The Flash or whatever TV shows is worth him only writing one comic.
Yeah. I mean, because honestly, like I like Justice League. I've enjoyed what he's done there. Like it's basically what he was doing with Green Lantern, just kind of like big superhero crazy stories. But yeah, like if he'd go back to Teen Titans, I'd lose my shit. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, I feel like Jeff Johns, there's some people like, I'm always like, oh, I wonder what it'd be like if they went on creator owned. But like, I really feel like Jeff Johns is like more than almost anybody, somebody he just belongs in superhero comics.
Yeah. And honestly, I think he's like me in that, like, I think his just passion in comics lies in superhero books. Like, I'm sure he enjoys other stuff like I do, but I would always take a really good superhero book over a really good anything else, basically. Yeah,
sure.
And I think he's kind of built that same way, where he just has that passion for the superhero comics above all else. So it makes sense for him to never go anywhere and do anything else except for these iconic characters. But
yeah, it is interesting how like you get to a point where you're so popular that it kind of feels like they have to keep him on like Justice League, because otherwise, what's the point? I don't know. I feel like he could do some super cool like lower tier books too, and I'd love to see that. I really liked him on Stars and Stripe. I wish we could see something like Stars and Stripe again, but we won't. But
I would love for them to take advantage of the current climate of the comic book industry and do a Stargirl book with him writing it.
yeah, man, that would be awesome. That'd be so
I
awesome.
mean, she is to me the same as Miss Marvel, but from the 90s.
Yeah.
Like, it's relatively same kind of glib, like, doe-eyed, rose-colored glasses type character, but just from a different era. And they could really, that could easily be DC's counterpoint to a really great character at Marvel.
The interesting thing about the 90s is it's so reviled, but for DC, man, that was a great time for teen heroes.
Oh my God, it was so good.
Like, you had you had Impulse, which is my jam. You got Stars and Stripe. You
Superboy.
had Superboy. You had Robin. Robin was awesome.
Robin was so good.
Nightwing was too old, but at the same time, he was like a younger hero. And the Nightwing comic back then from Dixon and Scott McDaniel was super dope. Young Justice, obviously.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, it seems interesting that 20 years later, they can't get a single young hero comic right.
Yeah, it is pretty incredible.
Anyways, all right. You have the super dope powers again. Carrying on. You have the super dope powers. What's the one thing you would bring to comics next year?
Other than editorial common sense to DC, I don't want to beat that one to death, but I would honestly really love to get a DC Unlimited.
Same answer.
God, I want that so bad. I honestly find myself reading more Marvel Unlimited than I do new Marvel comics.
Yeah.
I just blow through stuff. I've been reworking through the entire X-Men run from beginning to end for years now.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point now where they have everything. So I'm just blowing through it. Now I've expanded outwards. So now I'm reading because I just passed Onslaught. So I'm reading all the Heroes Reborn books and the Hulk books and the Spider-Man books. And then I'm just expanding out and I'm literally reading it continuity in order because it tells you, if you add it to your library, it sorts it by the date it was released.
Yeah. Marvel Unlimited is such a good program.
It's so good. So for $10 a month, I'm literally reading everything from the 90s forward in continuity. It's fucking phenomenal. And a DC one would be so good because I was always a bigger Marvel guy. And so I read Batman and, Green Lantern and stuff like that. But I never read everything all the time because it would always go back to Marvel. So I would love to be able to fill in the gaps there.
Yeah, same here. I mean, DC Unlimited, I would love to just go back because DC is really bad at publishing old, the reprints of the trades.
Terrible.
I would love to read, the old Robin series we were just talking about, or the old Nightwing series. Those are great comics. I have them in long boxes, but I hate to say it, long boxes are really inconvenient. So having that on an iPad would be amazing. And being able to go through that, being able to read some of the stuff I never read before. I never read Ostrander's Suicide Squad.
Oh, I love that stuff.
And I never read I haven't read the old Marv Wolfman and George Perez Teen Titans.
Neither have I, and I would love to.
Yeah. So
without having to pay $125 for a fucking omnibus.
Right, exactly. And omnibuses, I hate to say it. I like omnibuses, they're cool, but they're hard as shit to read.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them, and they are the least reality functioning thing I own, I think. They just cool in concept, but really, really, really impractical.
Do you have the complete Calvin Hobbes, the big books?
I don't. Most of the ones I have are Morrison and Quietly's X-Men run, or Jeff Johns omnibuses for the Green Lantern stuff. Most of my stuff is like that.
I was trying to read Calvin and Hobbes in bed because I was writing this big article for Calvin and Hobbes, and I didn't have my smaller ones. I just had the complete ones, and it's trying to read with a massive dictionary on your chest. It's so hard.
It's crazy hard.
It's really hard to read on bed. But so DC Limited for sure, and I'll get to the other stuff later. But okay, so what publisher? Next question. What publisher are you buying the most comics from these days? Still Marvel?
Yeah, it's Marvel. Basically what I did is I just went through and looked at my poll list.
Yeah.
And this is just including stuff that's coming out in February, so it's a little skewed.
Sure.
But my list is basically 13 Marvel, 1 Archie, 4.5 DC, 3.5 IDW, 2 Dark Horse, and 6 Image. That's what I'm buying right now.
So how was that the Batman TMNT?
Yeah. It was really kind of
That's kind of what I thought. I saw that and I was just I'm really curious as to what Brandon's going to think about this.
Yeah, I really, really, really wanted to like it, obviously. But I read it and I was but I think Dex is really going to enjoy it. He hasn't read the first issue yet, but if he doesn't care for it, I'm probably not buying the second issue.
Yeah. I Actually, so this is I know you really like Blankets and Habibi, right? Did you read his new book?
I did not.
So it's a kid's book.
Oh,
It's called Space Dumplings, and it's awesome.
Space Dumplings.
Yeah, I think Dex would really like it. It's like basically it's this little girl, like the gist of it is it's in space. This little girl and her family live in this asteroid belt. All this shit's happening. They get separated from her dad, and the little girl and her two little friends have to try to save the dad.
Nice.
And it's like that's a really basic premise for it, but I think you guys would really enjoy it. And it's so beautiful. It looks so good. But yeah, it came out from Scholastic this year, and I think he'd really enjoy it. Anyways, all right, mine is Image, probably. I mean, Marvel, my list has gotten pretty light. I actually do have to say I did buy a lot, not a lot of Secret Wars tie-ins, but I bought a fair amount. But I would say Marvel is probably close to Image. Like Image, I'm probably like somewhere between like 10 and 20, and Marvel, I'm probably somewhere between like 6 and 10. And DC, God, I mean, honestly, I can't really think right offhand of anything I'm buying besides Vertigo books. I buy Sheriff of Babylon and I buy Twilight Children, but that's it. And I'm buying Archie and Jughead, and yeah, I mean, like it's a weird list right now. And like I like, okay, I'm gonna get into this question next because I think it's gonna be very pertinent to what I was about to say. In 2015, what do you think has been the biggest change in your own reading habits?
So my reading and buying habits have changed in that even with the breakdown of my publishers, a good deal of those are my kids' books. Because now, like, I'm not buying as many books for myself. I've started dropping books and then picking up stuff for the kids. So, like, the IDW books, like, one is a Ninja Turtle book, the other one's the Ninja Turtle Batman book, and then the other ones are My Little Pony and Angry Birds. So, like, even the books that I'm buying aren't even necessarily all for me, or even Marvel. Like, I don't buy Nova for me. I don't buy all new, all different Avengers for me. Those are Dexter's books, and then I read them. Yeah. So it's odd that, like, my reading has really changed in that I'm finding myself finding stuff for the kids and then reading it after the fact, except for My Little Pony and Angry Birds. I just can't with those. But like, yeah, Dex will find like a Marvel book or that Spidey book, that Marvel Spidey book.
I heard that was good.
I got it for him. He was like, it's really good. I was like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So like my biggest change, I guess, is taking recommendations from my kids. Yeah. It's weird. Like, so yeah. And it's changed my buying habits incredibly. Cause like, I'm like, all right, well I could get a different book or I could get a book for the kids. And I'm like, all right. So I try to get them like 1 or 2 books a week. So out of my 6 books a week, 2 are usually for the kids at least. It's crazy.
I've said this before, but like, and I know you're kind of the same wavelength, but it's like one of my biggest things as a reader, and like, I don't know, it's not sophisticated for me to say or whatever, but I don't give a crap. I always like, even with movies and stuff to a certain degree, I always am kind of in pursuit of feeling what I did when I was a kid and just feeling super jacked about what I'm enjoying. And it's like, you know, it's cool. Like, I think that's a great avenue to find that because like, I feel like, you know, with Dex, you probably feel a bit of his enthusiasm rub off on you.
Oh yeah, man. They're like one of my favorite moments this year was like I said, he's loving the Star Wars series. So issue 6 was the one where Luke is fighting Boba Fett. Dex was in his room reading it. He comes running out. He's like, Dad, look at this. Oh my God. It just was like his head was exploding. I was like, oh my God. I think that's literally, I'm witnessing the first time ever that Dex has just had his mind blown by a comic book.
That is awesome.
I was like, this is incredibly cool. Outside of that, on a quick aside before I forget, that kid is rereading Bone again for like the 10th time, by the way, this week.
That is awesome.
That kid loves that series.
It's so good.
He reads it constantly. It's crazy.
I did the same thing when I was growing up, although it wasn't complete until I was like, I guess 18, but whatever. But anyways, but you know, it's such a good series. I wish there were more, like, it seems like maybe I'm underrating. Maybe it's just because I'm 31 and I'm not a kid anymore, but like, besides like some of like the like Raina Telgemeier comics and stuff like that, it seems like there's like not a lot of, not to make it sound smutty or something, but gateway drugs for kids as much as there used to be, maybe.
I don't know. I think right now there's more than there's been a long time with the all different Marvel stuff. Like, it's so much of that I can hand him and it's totally appropriate.
That's
like
awesome.
Iron Man's good, Doctor Strange is good. He's reading Spider-Man. He's reading the X-Men books. He's reading, I mean, basically anything. I'm not giving him Vision though. That one seems a little dark. There's a couple here and there that I'm like, maybe not that one.
Yeah.
But I mean, overall, like mostly, if it started at number one with all new, all different, which they all did, I'm just like handing it to him, like, hey, if you like it, let me know, and I'll keep putting them in your room when I'm done reading them.
Yeah.
And basically, so far, he hasn't kicked anything out of bed. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, and so right now it's nice. And I think that's also he's just at the right age too. But I like that it's like they're not like kid comics. They're comics that both a kid and an adult can read. Which for a long time these have skewed so far in like
one direction or the
males
other.
In the 30-year-old range. Yeah, that like I would never give my kids like an Iron Man comic or something like that because there's just some foul shit in there.
That's awesome.
But it hasn't been that way. So right now I think we're living in a golden age of that.
That's great. Okay, so for me, biggest change for my habits, and I've been kind of dancing around it for a bit, is I've been making more game time decisions to switch to trades or like for Marvel Unlimited for series. Like I read the entire like Wade, Somni, Paulo Rivera, Marcos Martin Daredevil series on Marvel Unlimited, and I freaking loved it. But at the same time, like because they get released so fast, I can wait till the series is over, like plus 6 months, and then read the entire series on a Marvel Unlimited for, it's not free, but in my mind it's basically free because like it just magically comes out of my credit card and like 999's gone and I'm like free comics.
Totally.
So anyways, but and like for trades, it's like there's been a number of books where I'm just like, honestly, I'm fine waiting for trades, and like especially like the Image books and stuff like that. There's some books where I buy the first couple issues and I'm like, I like this, but I think it'd be a better trade book. Or like I really like a lot. There's a number of Boom series that I really enjoy right now, and I just wait for those in trade. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's kind of changed my reading experience to a certain degree. And it makes me really think more about what I really, really want to read on a week-to-week basis rather than like read in binge settings. But I feel like I'm binging more stuff than ever, and I'm totally fine with that.
I'm totally doing the Netflix mode on more stuff. I'm with you 100%. And like you said, it totally feels free because you just forget it that you're paying for it.
Yeah.
But then the flip side to it is like, if I really sit down and think about it, I'm getting way more than $10 worth of reading out of it. Like it's insane. If you figure a comic right now is $3.99 for the most part, you're looking at what, 3 comics equal that basically, and you're already over that. Like that's crazy. Like I know I'm reading more than 3 comics on there. And also the flip side of that is with me having so many issues from Marvel and DC lately. Like I always would appreciate people who are like, well, if you don't like it, go back and read the old stuff that you like. All right, well, I will. And that's basically what I've been doing. I'm like, all right, let me go back and read all the shit that's supposedly really good that I've never read. Yeah. Instead of having to gut through stuff that I'm just like, I should just read it because it's that. So that's a huge change for me too.
The funny thing is like I find myself like rereading like random stuff like the Ultimates or like I don't know, like House of M, just because I'm like, I like those comics. They're fun. I'm gonna read them. Why not? But for God, what was I gonna say? Marvel Unlimited, like this is random, but like my new like favorite comic person at Bosco's, she recommended she was talking about a Gambit series that came out a couple years ago in which she like hung out with like Pete Wisdom. And and I love Pete Wisdom. We were talking about Pete Wisdom, and I just love that guy. And she was like, "Oh yeah, he was in this Gambit series a couple years ago." And like my next thing to read on Marvel Unlimited is that Gambit series. It's like 15 issues. It was like I think a pretty good creative team. It had like Clay Mann on it and like James Asmus. And I'm like, I'm gonna read that. Why not? And I can because I can read all 15 of those comics for $9.99 when it would probably cost like $30 if I bought them through Comixology. It's it's stupid good.
Yeah, that is a pretty good series. That made my list a couple times while we were doing 4-color still.
I don't know how I didn't pay attention to it because I do like Gambit. Gambit's awesome. Okay, so I'm just going to do 2 more questions before getting into our top 10 because I know we've been going for a while. But what comic do you think has been the most overhyped in 2015? And which one do you think has been the most underhyped?
Most overhyped for me is Dark Knight 3.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just like touching back to what we were talking about earlier, like the hardcover thing, the week after, 2 weeks after it came out, like they're not even waiting for like things to settle down. They're like, we're just going to smack you over the head with products. There's multiple covers and there's this and there's that. And then like on top of it, you got Frank Miller who's like, I'm going to tell my own like Dark Knight 3 or Dark Knight 4 or whatever coming up. I'm like, what are you even talking about right now? This one hasn't even finished. So for me, that's by far just the most overhyped. I'm so tired. And I read the first issue, and honestly, it wasn't terrible. Yeah. But it's not as good as everybody's like hyping it up to be, or like the DC engine. It's crazy they put so much money behind hyping this instead of spreading all that money out to hiring good talent for the rest of their books.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair for them, it was the number one selling comic this past month, and I don't know what the story was in your shop, but Bosco's, I was the first person in the day to like not buy it, and I went in at like 2:30, and so like they had a shit. They said that they had people like every person came in, bought it, and it's like a $5.99 comic, so like I'm sure Bosco's loved that.
Yeah.
But anyways, like so it for me it is also the most overhyped. I can't remember a comic being more hyped than this. Then I guess maybe Star Wars #1 like this year, but
yeah, that was pretty hype.
But at the same time, it seems like, I mean, Star Wars, I hate to say it, is bigger than that, and like it's deserved, and like that was an amazing team, and like I mean, Azzarello and Kubert's good, but it's like they're telling a continuation of a story that they had no part in, and so like I just felt like. And like with the million different covers and the 5,000 to 1 variant, like Jim Lee sketch cover and like the $12.99 hardcover, it was just like, it seems so desperate.
Super desperate because they're not making money on anything else.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, underhyped.
Underhyped, I'm going to go back to and I'm going to say We Are Robin. I love that book. And I mean, honestly, though, this is another changed habit for me. I try to avoid reading basically anything comic news anymore. I'm just over it. It's always so negative that it started to like bleed into the way I looked at things. And I was like, I don't need this. I want to go back to just looking at things the way I want to look at it.
Yeah, totally.
So I avoid I don't read comment sections. I don't read reviews. If it's news, I'll read news. I don't read solicitations. I'll go through Comixology and pick books that I want to read, but I don't even read solicitations anymore.
That's a big change.
I've been trying to get back to basics. Like, I don't want to know anything until I get it, and I don't want to know anybody's opinion on it. I just want to come to what I like and then just read it. And then make my own determination. I don't even want to have it remotely skewed. But We Are Robin, I love that book. So I don't know how much hype there is really, or not hype, I guess is my point with all that, or what the reviews have been. But man, it's like for a book, like I know everybody loves Batgirl because like within the Batman universe, it's just allowed to do its own thing. But this is similar to that. And I think as much as DC's struggling, they really need to take the editors from the Batman line and apply them basically to the top. Yeah. Because the Batman line is so diverse. And like, I know people like Grayson. I know like people like Batgirl. I actually kind of like the Batman or Robin Son of Batman. I just couldn't justify buying it every month because it wasn't that great. But it's a pretty diverse line in an overall company that's not very diverse right now. But yeah, I'd love that book. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I can agree with you. I hate comic sites, especially this site called Sketched. Fuck that site. It's horrible. No, I mean, like, I totally agree with you, though. I think it's just kind of the nature of the internet. It's just like, I think at a certain point you talk things to death, and then it like either removes any level of interest to it, or it just like kind of makes you hate it. And so it's like, if you keep talking about it, that's why I honestly don't do any reviews. Like every once in a while I'll do a review. And then most of the time I'm just talking to artists being like, why you draw so good? Yeah. And so that's like the vast majority of my articles. Or I just talk on podcasts to people about like random shit. But anyways, my most underhyped is it's a Boom comic. It's called Wild's End. And they describe it as War of the Worlds meets Wind in the Willows. And it's basically like these there's been 2 series. I don't remember when the first series ended. I think the first series ended earlier this year, and then the second series is going right now, and it's from Dan Abnett and Inj Colbert, INJ Colbert. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's a beautiful comic, and it's like a alien invasion in small town England, but all the people are actually anthropomorphic animals. And it's so good. It is ridiculously good. And like it's not really like there's some awesome back matter in it. It's not a super dense read, but it's just super enjoyable. And I don't know, man, I like it's one of the comics I enjoy the most. Absolutely. And nice. I don't know anyone who ever talks about it.
I've never even heard of it, I don't think.
Well, there you go. Maybe I'll buy you the first trade for Christmas.
Nice.
Okay. Last one before the top 10s. We're going to create an award. It's MVC, Most Valuable Creator. This isn't the best. It's the writer or artist who added the most to the comics you read this year. For you, what writer and artist get your respective MVC awards? And they don't have to be a part of the same creative team. Just the ones who like had the most war to them, so to speak.
I kind of struggle with this one a little bit, but in the end, I ended up settling on Jason Aaron as my writer.
Yep.
Just because
Star Wars,
like, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but traditionally with Star Wars comics, I'm real hit or miss. Like I read all of the expanded universe books. I'm a huge fan of those. But when it comes to the comics, like a lot of times they just seem like they're treading water and they seem really unimportant. They don't ever alter anything. Back when the expanded universe was a thing, I guess, rest in peace, pour one out. But like the books would change everything. Like they killed Chewbacca. You know, like that was huge. It was a game changer.
Right.
If you're into that whole side of things. The comics never really progressed anywhere. I feel like with the Star Wars comics at Marvel, they seem and they feel important. You know, they're not killing anybody off because it's in the past, and they're not making huge game changers. But it just seems so much more important. And that's where DC's screwing up, is you got to put A-list talent on a book, and it automatically seems more important. But yeah. So Jason Aaron's my writer, bar none. And then outside of that, just the other work he's done this year, like Doctor Strange has been fucking awesome, and things of that nature. So. What about you?
Writer for me is Hickman. I actually really came to realize, like, when I was doing a write-up for like my favorite creators of the year, and like I realized, I mean, you could say that most writers kind of roughly, they write the same-ish. They kind of have, everyone has got their own strengths, but they're all kind of coming from like the same angle to a certain degree. I feel like Hickman really does comics a completely different way. And like, I mean, his comics are just so grandiose and ridiculously over the top, like plot wise, and like they're so epic. And like, I don't know, I love Secret Wars. I really enjoyed his Avengers and New Avengers. I love East of West. I love the Dying and the Dead, even though I was a fool for thinking it was gonna be coming out on the regular. The Manhattan Projects has been like, I don't know, it's been like a disappearing act, but when it does come out, it's good. And and that's the weird thing, is like, I honestly don't know what the story is for like why some of his books are late. I highly doubt it's him, but I don't know that. Anyways, I don't know where Nick Pitara is right now, so God only knows. Like, he might be the reason. Just kidding, Nick. I love you.
He's busy playing Words with Friends with me. That's an ongoing thing.
You should just spell "do your job" over the next 3 moves. He'd probably love that.
Every once in a while, I hit him with something about maggot, and he just laughs. But he is literally, I played him now probably going 2 years, and Words with Friends complete aside, but I have yet to beat Nick Pitara in a game of Words with Friends going like 2 years running out. And we literally, once we finish a game, we start one immediately, if not run 2 games. He is just ridiculous. I have genuinely thought many a times maybe he cheats. I don't know.
Maybe he's just like a savant at that shit.
Maybe. That and arm wrestling, that's his jam.
So I'm going to Emerald City Comic-Con this year, and I actually have an extra ticket, and it's too bad you're not closer to that, because you could totally come.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
And Nick's gonna be there, and I feel like we would have a grand old time.
When is that?
It's in April. It's like 4 days this year. It's crazy.
Interesting.
Anyways, but so for me, for the most valuable creator on the artist side is so I wanted to do both. I don't know if you have an artist.
Artists, I don't know that I have anybody super big. Like Esed Ribic is killing it on Secret Wars, though.
Yeah.
And then Imminent is killing it on Star Wars. So those are probably my 2 favorite. But I don't have anybody, I don't think, and I'm probably just forgetting something, to be honest, but I don't have anybody that just really like blows my mind off the top of my head.
Yeah. Mine's Wes Craig. He does Deadly Class, and that guy, he adds so much to every single issue. It just blows, it really kills me, like how damn good he is as an artist. But okay, so for the top 10, how do you want to do this? You want to do this rapid fire and then talk about it, or do you want to go reveal one, and then talk about our respective ones? Which one do you want to do?
I'm not particular.
All right, let's do the reveal one, just because it would be, I think, more interesting that way. I'll start.
Are you doing this in order, by the way?
I'm doing 10 through 1 in order.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so 10 is a comic that you definitely haven't read. It was released by Drawn and Quarterly. It's a web comic by Jillian Tamaki. It's called Super Mutant Magic Academy. Nice. And it's I feel like you'd really like it. It's fucking hilarious. Like almost every single comic is just an individual strip that has like there's continuity in the sense it's the same characters over and over, but it's basically like it's literally a super mutant magic academy where there's like cat people and like people who have special powers and this kid who's lived forever and like all these different like random characters. And like the best comparison, like when I read it, the thing that reminded me the most of it is like if like Harry Potter met Dazed and Confused.
What?
And it's super funny. It is fucking hilarious. It is ridiculous. And it like at the end, it just randomly has this like long string of consecutive continuity laden like strips. There's an actual arc at the end in the book, and it's really great. Like I feel like you'd probably enjoy it. But Tamaki is like a really great artist, and her writing is so funny, and all the characters are so weird. And so I don't know. I really loved it. Like I read that like about a month ago. And I was just like, this comic is amazing. Like, it was one of the comics that just, like, surprised the hell out of me. I picked it up on a whim just because I thought the title was cool and I love the cover. So,
that's awesome.
Anyways, that's my number 10. What's your 10?
My number 10 is Descender by Jeff Lemire and Dustin Nguyen. Two of my favorite creators on one book. I'm not gonna lie, like a few issues, like the first couple issues were like in my top 10 like immediately, and stayed there for a while. And then over time, honestly, I stopped keeping track of what my favorite books of the year were, like individual issues. And instead what I did was I was tossing a book that like I just felt like was awesome into my drawer next to my bed, and that's how I came my top 10 as I went through and just sorted out how many of each title were in there.
Yeah, makes sense.
And you'll see this year how skewed most of the year is towards the end of the year, because for the majority of the year, I was just like, meh. But Descender was one of those books I thought was really good. Somewhere in the middle, it really slowed down for me and kind of stalled out. But recently, when they've just brought it back, it's picked back up. But I think Nguyen's art's been fantastic. I loved the initial story of like these giant things coming and just laying waste in that first issue.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah, it was just awesome. And I love just like the universe building they've done and how they put in the front like about the different worlds and things like that, so you can kind of build the universe in your mind even if they don't have the ability to showcase it all the time.
It definitely slowed down a bit.
It did for a little bit. I mean, it never got bad, don't get me wrong, but
it just slowed down.
It started so hot and heavy at first.
The first issue was so insane.
It was so good. I was like, there's no way this isn't going to be my favorite issue of the whole year. When I first read it, I was like, this is amazing.
And then you read Archie.
And a number of other things. Yeah, Archie was so good. But anyway, but yeah, that's my number 10. All
right, what's number 9?
Number 9 for me is Tokyo Ghost.
Ooh.
I've really been enjoying Tokyo Ghost. I almost skipped it. And then I was looking at it on the shelf, and I was like, Rick Remender and Sean Gordon Murphy.
Yeah, how could that not be good?
I was like, are you really gonna skip that? Like, are you high? And then I was like, yes, but buy it anyway. But yeah, no, it's been really good. Like, Sean Gordon Murphy is killing it on art. I really enjoyed the story and like how they've had to unplug him and like basically bring him back to not being a technology addict. I've really enjoyed the hell out of that series.
Yeah, it is, and it's a hell of a team. It's just so good.
So
okay, number 9 for me is The Wicked and the Divine, and it was an interesting year for that comic because they finished their second arc, and then they went into a third arc in which Jamie McKelvey did not draw anything besides one page for each issue. And like they had guest artists for every arc, and every issue, and they were like basically tackling a different one of the gods. And like it worked out great. They actually, so they have this one character, his name's Woden, and he basically looks like Daft Punk, like one of the guys from Daft Punk.
Nice.
And the entire issue is actually a remix issue. They reuse art from before, but add like filters and stuff to it to like retell his tale from his perspective. And it's super rad. It was like, I've literally never read a comic like it before, but it was really awesome. And like, I don't know. I mean, it's a really good comic, and Gillen and McKelvey are fantastic, and so is Matt Wilson. And like they had like the Leila Del Duca from Shudder on there, and they had Stephanie Hans, the one who did the Journey into Mystery, and then God, who else did they have on it? I'm like forgetting. They had several other people, but it's just been a really good book, and like I've very much enjoyed like the risks they've taken because it's made the book much more interesting in my book. So
nice.
Number 8 for me is a book that I like. Earlier in the year, I really would have thought it would have finished at number 1, but the latest arc I don't love, so it dropped. Is Lazarus. Greg Rucka, Michael Lark. It's one of my favorite books. It's really great. It's so dense. The character work is awesome. It dropped a little bit because other stuff is really good. It's like there's a lot of stuff I really like this year. Like at the top, I'm still really happy about like the comics I'm reading. It's just like I guess I miss some of the depth. But what's your number 8?
My number 8 is Archie.
Woo, Archie!
It got a little bit of a bump up just because it's an Archie book that I'm buying, and I was like, if you're buying an Archie book, it's got to be a top 10 book for you, because that is the only way you could have ever bought an Archie book. Because if you'd have told me like 4 years ago I was buying an Archie book, I would have fucking laughed. But yeah, the story's been good. I love me some teen drama, and it's got that in spades. The art that they've had on there has been fantastic. It doesn't matter which artist they've had. I prefer the staple stuff, but the new art's great too. And I like that they're building the world, and like Laura's read all that stuff for the most part, a lot of it, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I know who this is," and I don't know who any of these people are.
Like Reggie Mantle.
Yeah, I don't know who half of these people are. So like even like side characters, I just think are throwaway characters. Laura's like, no, that's this person who did it. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's been fun in that I always enjoy, as a long-term comic book reader, being able to jump into an old universe and learn about it brand new, which I don't get to do very often because I've read a lot of comics and I've been around for a while. But Archie's one of those uncharted zones for me. So it's been a lot of fun just kind of like being able to like, Lois and Clark through that shit.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Lewis and Clark, not Lois and Clark.
Oh, that works. I still understood it. I do want to say, I didn't expect it to, but actually that lipstick incident actually paid off really well.
Yeah, because I was like, how? Like they said, because she was like, no, he never cheat. He'd never do that. And I was like, well, then what the hell is the lipstick incident? And then it came about, and I was like, oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense because it was like, when you're younger, you're a different person, and then like you age together, and like you start separating, and you're like, shit gets weird.
Yeah, and
like it made a lot of sense. I was like, that was a good payoff. Anyways, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is Invincible Iron Man. I am super digging that book. I think the art is phenomenal.
Marquez is so good.
So good. It's so clean looking. And I don't know who does the coloring, but the coloring on the book is phenomenal too.
I actually don't remember.
I feel bad that I don't know because it is honestly, it's one of those books where the coloring adds so much to it for me. I don't know why, but it just looks so good and clean. Mm-hmm. And I've just enjoyed it. It's been lighthearted. Like I said, I've been able to give it to Dex and he can jump in. I've always enjoyed how Bendis wrote Iron Man. I enjoyed it on New Avengers. I think he's got a good grasp on the character. And yeah, I've been really enjoying it.
Yeah, no, I definitely have enjoyed it as well. I'm trying to find out the colors. I think it's Justin Ponser. Sorry, we're horrible at pronouncing names on this show.
Ramadan.
Good color. Great colors. Number 7 for me is a book that I hyped up to you before, and it's totally awesome. And it's like, it's Kaiju Max, which is an Oni Press book. Xander Cannon writes, draws, colors, letters, edits, does everything for the book. And, well, actually, I guess Charlie Chu edits it. But anyways, but it is, like, seriously, like, basically the premise is Oz meets Godzilla, and it is both one of the funniest and strangest and most unique books I've ever read, and also one of the most heartbreaking books. And it is like, it's so good. Only 6 issues came out. The next season is coming out next year. But I would, like, seriously, I think if you picked up the first trade, you'd be like, this is super dope. Okay. And they're just gonna do seasons, so it's like 6 issues every, like, I don't know, 8 months or something like that, and then they're going to jump in for next arc after that. But the first season was awesome. All right, number 6 for me. Okay, I'm not even kidding. This wasn't even on my list before this week, and now it's number 6 because I love the issue that much. Secret Wars.
Nice.
Yep, Secret Wars made my list. I really think it comes down to recency again. But the thing is like, I've enjoyed all of Secret Wars. I think it's been a really great series, and I think that when it's in collection or when it's in Marvel Unlimited, we're really going to look back on it as one of the great Marvel events ever, because it really is all of Hickman's run smashed together into this glorious package. But also, it's like, it's so big and so Marvel, and it's kind of like everything I want from a Marvel event comic in one book. Mm-hmm. And it's got the big moments and it's got the small moments, and Esad Ribick's art's amazing. And I don't know, it's just so freaking like rad. I love it. All right, number 6.
Doctor Strange. I love that book. It's crazy, wonky, off the wall art with Bocciolo, and just like the last issue was so good. Where he's like running around naked fighting this stuff.
I haven't read it yet.
Okay, I won't spoil much, but he does run around the whole issue naked.
I love it.
Fighting magic, and it's just so weird and different, like a Doctor Strange book should be, in my opinion.
Totally.
Like a Doctor Strange book should be like a weird acid trip, in my opinion, of some sort. And this book constantly has it, and it's got some great humor in it. Jason Aaron's really killing it on there. So Doctor Strange, and then that's another book again I've been able to give to my son. And Doctor Strange is a character I really love, but never have loved one of his series. The BKV Marcos Martin one that they did. The Oath, that was really good, but that was like, what, literally a decade ago?
Yeah.
I mean, since then there hasn't been anything. So, I really, really love that book. I'm glad that there's a character I enjoy. I finally can enjoy him in his own series. So,
can I just say I really like the fact that like there's like apparently magicians that get together and just drink and like just like hang out. I mean, that makes sense, right?
But it reminded me a little bit though of God, what was that book? It was so good. I loved it. The DC Magic one.
Shadow Pact.
Yeah, it reminded me of Shadow Pact with the bar.
That was great. Like, yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me because you're going to see some jacked up stuff. So you want to get together with people who actually understand where you're coming from and that also like to drink booze.
Yeah, totally.
All right, number 5.
Number 5 for me is Extraordinary X-Men.
Oh, I did not expect that.
I didn't either, honestly. I actually, in total, am enjoying the new X-Men books. But Extraordinary X-Men, I feel like, is more in line with what I actually want from an X-Men book. It's got a more classic lineup. I like that the Old Man Logan that they've brought into it is more like the Wolverine that I enjoy, as opposed to the very, very like watered down Wolverine we've gotten in the last few years.
Wolverine Light.
Yeah, it's like super Wolverine Light, and this one's not quite that way. And he's like, because he's from an alternate timeline, you kind of know little things like, he killed all the X-Men. That's well established. But he's still like, he's not the same Wolverine, so his past could be different.
Right.
So you have that mysterious Wolverine back, which I actually really enjoy. And then in recent issues with the interactions with him and a younger Jean Grey is kind of interesting / kind of creepy, because I'm used to seeing that with like Jubilee and stuff like that. Now all of a sudden it's like the love of his life he's got this weird teenage partner of.
I bet he thinks that's pretty weird himself too.
He does, and he wants nothing to do with her because he doesn't want to kill him. So he refuses, and like the way they finally bring him in. Are you reading any of them?
No, I'm actually going to now. I do have to say one thing that you've said a number of times, like a thing that you've said about comics before is like it's really hard to put the genie back in the bottle or whatever. Mm-hmm. Sounds like they did that with Wolverine to a degree.
They did, and it's cool because they did it in an organic way too. And like, it's granted it's not quote our Wolverine, but I wasn't really a big fan of our Wolverine anymore. They really kind of destroyed that character in all kinds of different ways. Now they've found a way, like you said, to put the genie back in the bottle. And then like the other X-Men books, like they're not all quite on the same level, honestly. But and I know you don't like the younger X-Men, so All New X-Men is not going to be your book by any means. But I actually really enjoy the Lady Wolverine book. I hate calling it Lady Wolverine, but I mean, that's the easiest way to differentiate that. But that actually works pretty well. But overall, Extraordinary X-Men is pretty damn extraordinary for me. That's by far the best X-Men book in at least a year and a half. And I like the Bendis stuff.
I gotta check it out. I mean, like I was on the fence, but Lemire I like, and I obviously like Humberto Ramos because of my Impulse love. So I'll have to check it out. Number 5 for me, another Jason Aaron's getting a lot of rep here, but Southern Bastards, loving it. Great series. The second arc really threw me for a loop, and actually, like I wrote this, basically made me hate Jason Aaron and Jason Latour because they made me feel emotions that I didn't want to feel, and that upset me. But it's such a well-made book, and the art is phenomenal, and I love that Jason Aaron's dance card got so busy that Jason Latour wrote an issue and they just got a different artist and it still works so well. Nice. It's pretty great. So definitely up there. Number 4 for me is Ms. Marvel, actually.
Nice.
Love it. Ms. Marvel number 19 was probably one of my 2 or 3 favorite single issues this entire year. I love the fact that like the character is written as like a person first. It's not necessarily like all about the heroics, and it's done such a great job at like making her feel like, honestly, the closest thing it feels to is like a great Spider-Man comic. It's like kind of like Ultimate Spider-Man, where like, like the high school life is an important part, and like the day-to-day life is important, and the family and all that stuff. And it works so well. And also I love the fact that she's kind of a fangirl in her own right. And so like when she sees like Captain Marvel, she just like freaks out rather than like, I don't know. She's just such a great character. And like G. Willow Wilson has done a great job writing it. Adrian Alfona's art is awesome. And like when they have like Jake Wyatt or Takeshi Miyazawa on it, it works really well too. So it's just a great book. I really enjoy it. And it's fun. And it's like, it reminds me of the comics I enjoyed as a kid in a lot of ways. So I enjoy it for that. Number 4, Mr. Brandon.
Is... for the first time in years, not my number 1, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is number 4.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, it took a pretty decent dive, 3 spots for the first time, probably since its existence, I think.
Pretty much, yeah.
But yeah, so all great things have to come to an end. It's still a good series, but there were some slow parts this year where it was just like, all right, get on with it. Issue 50 was really cool. I loved that they like killed Donatello and put him in a robot body and then put him back, and it's all said and done. And now like Splinter's running the Foot Clan, and they've killed Shredder, and like there's all this great stuff going that they've done a great job of building. And I appreciate that it's been the same creative staff basically the whole run, so they've had the ability to like make all these changes and do these things and really get you to invest. But there were some slower moments this year, and there were some crazy good books this year in my opinion. So in my top 3. So it sadly dropped it. But yeah, so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I feel like I have a pretty good beat as to what your number 1's going to be, but I don't know what else is going to be your top 3. What's number 3?
Number 3 is Old Man Logan from the Secret Wars crossover.
I did not see that coming.
I really, 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 really love that series. I obviously love Bendis. Sorrentino's art is phenomenal. I love Sorrentino, like going back to his Green Arrow stuff. And he was really, really good on this book. And I think I liked it more than anything because Wolverine is like my all-time favorite character, like Batman, Wolverine, Joker, in that mix type deal. But Wolverine, man, like 90s X-Men kid, so Wolverine. And this, like I was talking about with Extraordinary X-Men, kind of was like, wow, this is the Wolverine I enjoy. Like, he's a badass. He's going wherever the hell he wants to go over these walls and shit. And they're like, how are you getting here? He's like, because I'm fucking Wolverine and I'm awesome. And I enjoyed that, like, it almost broke the third wall or fourth wall or whatever, like where he's like going to all these different places, like nobody else can do that, but Wolverine can because he should be in every comic. So why shouldn't he be in every territory too?
That's amazing.
And so he's everywhere, and he's just such a badass, and the mystery of it, and like the tormented nature of the character, and it really darkened him up a bit, which I really enjoyed. Because the other Wolverine, like I loved Wolverine in the X-Men, but it really lightened the character, and they really made him more of a team player and looking out for everybody. And I'm enjoying that they've pulled it back, and now they're like, okay, so who wants the hard-ass Wolverine? You got him back, and I mean, who knows how long it'll last, but I'm really enjoying it while it lasts, and I'm really excited to see what the series is like.
That is hilarious. That's awesome. We talked about this before. The only thing that threw me off about that series was I really didn't like the coloring.
I like it. It fits with Sorrentino stuff, of like because I can see what your problem is with it. I absolutely can, because there are some spots where I'm like, oh, that looks messy.
It's it's intense. It's like the color is like so red and so white, which makes sense for the character, I guess. But at the same time, like there was just something about it that just took me out of the book. I mean, like it was a good book. Otherwise, it's just like, honestly, this is how petty I am at comics these days. I didn't pick up a comic because I didn't like how they lettered H's.
You are petty. I got nothing for you.
I looked at the comic in the preview, and I was like, there was a preview in the back of a comic I was reading already, and I looked at the H's. I'm like, this looks like a backwards N. And every time I saw the H from then on, I was like, I can't do it. I'm out.
That's funny.
That's out. Funny. Yeah. Anyways, all right. Number 3 for me. I already mentioned this book when I mentioned my MVCs, but number 3 is Deadly Class. Love that book. It is so badass, and it's so heartbreaking, and it's just like it's a really interesting look at being a young person, and it's a really accurate version, except for it has like an assassin academy, and it has like crazy drug use and stuff. So it's like not exactly like my childhood, but kind of similar in the sense that I was a child once, I guess. But
I still am.
Yeah. And Rick Remender's writing is awesome, but Wes Craig is the shit, and he's the best artist in comics, and I love him. Number 2, already talked about this book too. It's Wild's End. It is it's like honestly one of the comics that I look forward to the most every single month, and it's just so enjoyable, and the art is so good, and I really appreciate the fact that the artist Inge Colbert, INJ, he draws it, he colors it, he letters it, he like does like all this stuff for it, and like I'm really impressed by the craftsmanship on it. And like, you like Dan Abnett, I think you'd like this comic. So that's my number 2. What's your 2?
My number 2 is a book you've touched on, Secret Wars.
Yeah,
that was a great series. Like I said, I didn't read a bunch of the tie-ins, but I liked the main series. It's definitely my favorite Marvel event since Civil War. In that, like, it's really fun and it does something different. It's like it's almost like an Age of Apocalypse, and that like it's just so divergent. but it still ties into all the Hickman Avengers stuff, which I really, really enjoyed. And I enjoyed that, like, it's a more intelligent version of the original Secret Wars. You still have Battle World, you still have all these different things, but instead of it being about the fights, there's a lot more interesting story elements and beats going on. And it's more character driven than it really is like the fights. So I like that they're like, all right, we're going to do Secret Wars again, but we're basically going to do it totally different, but still the same. And it's been phenomenal. Like, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh man, I'm kind of sad there's like only one issue left. And then it's also a book, like I know you said, like, you kind of forget it and then you pick it up and you think when it's in trade it'll be better. Like, I literally, every time a new issue comes out, I start from issue 1 and I read all the way up to the point where the new issue's at.
Really?
Every single time. And it's so enjoyable. It's so enjoyable. I love it. Because there's a lot going on like there is in a Hickman book. And so sometimes, like, I like the first couple issues, up until I got to issue 3, I didn't do that. Then I read issue 3 and I had forgot some stuff. I was like, let me just go back and read those other ones. But it was such an enjoyable experience reading them that I was like, let's just do this every time.
Yeah.
And it comes out so infrequently anymore that it's easy to do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I'm not sure if I'm in the same category with you or in agreement that it'd be like remembered as the best or one of the best. Like, but it's really good. Actually, I take it back. I probably would throw it in there as one of the best. I don't know if I'd say the best, but one of the best. For sure. I mean, especially in the last, I don't even know how long. It's such a solid good book, and it's so awesome that, like, all that Hickman stuff, I kept saying it was building somewhere, and it did, and the payoff has been so phenomenally good that rarely do you get to a giant, like, multi-year payoff and not walk away in some way disappointed. And I am in no way disappointed at this point.
I guess number 9 will probably decide where it like ranks and ultimately. But the good news is I saw Tom Brevoort tweeted today that it's off to the printer, so it's coming out.
Nice.
Very excited.
I'm so excited.
So number 1 is Star Wars.
Yes. Without a doubt.
Awesome.
Is yours Star Wars too?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Yeah, no, mine is definitely Star Wars. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. That book's so goddamn good. Like, I love Star Wars. Like, Star Wars and X-Men are like that. And so, yeah, oh God, it's been so good. I couldn't even begin. Like, I could go issue by issue and explain why each issue is so fucking good. And like the funny thing is, I mentioned that issue with Boba Fett and Luke fighting and Dex's head like exploded. I literally had the same exact reaction while I was reading. I was like, oh my god, they're doing this. This is happening. Like, I was losing my mind. It was so cool. And then like all the stuff with like Vader and the AT-ATs and stuff and just crushing shit. Like, it's, oh God, it's so fucking good. I really want, the only thing I didn't like, I don't know, it's a total aside because it's not this title, but yeah, Star Wars.
Oh, wait, were you going to say Vader down?
No, I don't mind the Vader down stuff. That little side thing that they did that supposedly is the first issue or the first series.
Oh, Journey to
the Force Awakens or whatever the hell that thing was.
Yeah.
That was trash.
Yeah, well.
I was like, what does this fit into? Why is this important?
Shattered Empire?
Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I
don't understand what the point of it was.
Don't judge me. I'm going to say something you're going to kill me for, but don't judge me. I'm reading it in trade. No,
I'm totally judging you.
That's totally a trade unlimited book for me, and it's not because I didn't like it. It's just like I don't know why. I just decided that I was going to do that, and like I actually really enjoyed the old Star Wars comics, like the Dark Horse ones and stuff. But I decided I was going to wait on it, and like I actually enjoyed the issues of Darth Vader that I read too, and like I don't know. I just decided I was going to wait. I don't know why. I'm terrible.
Judging.
I know. I need to get caught up. All right, my number 1 is a book that I've hyped a lot to you in the past as a book that I just really love. It's just the comic I enjoy the most. It's actually The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, and I cannot believe those words just came out of my mouth.
Number 1?
That's my number 1 comic.
Wow.
It is so fun. I
will give it a try. The fact that it's your number 1, I will actually finally read it.
Seriously, I explained it to you before. Like, there's this one, like issue number 4. Like, the first 3 issues are building up to her fighting Galactus on the moon. and the 4th issue, I don't mean to spoil it, but I just have to. The 4th issue is like them just hanging out on the moon and like making fun of Thanos and like just like they talk it out and like they find another planet for him to eat at because she gets on his computer, like in his weird ass world egg orb thing that he flies around in, and she finds a different planet for him to eat instead of Earth. And so she beats him through talking to him. And the funny thing is like like there's like there are straight up like villain fights, but like most of it is just like she finds alternative solutions to beating like villains, and it's really great. It's just fun, and it's like really weirdly meta, and like the art fits it perfectly, and it's a bizarre little comic, but I just enjoy it so much. Like,
does she still take care of Luke and Jessica's kid?
No, she does not,
Oh,
and she
okay.
does not actively sleep with any Wolverine character because she's in college now. So, like, it's I don't know how deep into the they do a little like continuity with her, and like she talks to like Iron Man sometimes and stuff like that. So like she's still got rep with them, but it's like I don't know, it's just super enjoyable, and it's really weird, and like I don't even know if you would like it that much, but I feel like you should give it a shot. At least read the first 4 issues and like get to that Galactus issue. And then if you don't like it, don't move on. But it's my favorite comic. I love it. Every single time it comes out, it's the first comic I read. And it's just so great.
Nice. That's on Unlimited now, isn't it?
Oh, totally. The first 4 issues are definitely on. I mean, hell, dude, like this year's been so weird for Marvel. Unbeatable Squirrel Girl has had 2 volumes launched this year.
So weird.
So weird. Anyways, that's it. That's all we got for the year-end wrap-up. It's been a long episode, but it's been a good one. Thanks for coming on, Brandon.
Thanks for having me.
That was fun, but we'll hopefully have Brandon on in the future. If you guys like it, tweet me and tweet him and just say you want Brandon on the show more, and we can totally have it. So I'll talk to you soon, and I'll shoot you an email when it goes up. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Off Panel from Sketch.com. You can find this week's guest, Brandon Burpee, on Twitter at Brandon Burpee, and potentially in future episodes of Off Panel if you enjoy it. You can find more sketch content at sketch.com. That's SKTCHD.com. Find us on Twitter at SketchedComic. Like us on Facebook @/sketched. And give us a rating or review on iTunes. Thanks for listening, and tune in next week for another episode.